today's session. Uh, Let me share my screen. See, if any student is unable to join due to any technical reason or so, please inform your class teacher or counselor. Let us know the reason why you were absent. Why? Because even after 1 week or so, after seeing all your presence report, we'll definitely inform your parents, right? So it will be better if you come forward initially and say us what's the reason for your absence. So in the coming to today's class, yesterday we started very important topic in our subject. We started with the process. What we learned about process is a general process. We say that any set of operations that we are performing in order to achieve perform some task, in order to achieve some goal. What are all the set of operations you are performing? You call it as a process in general. For suppose if you want to do some work, in order to do some work, what are all the operations that are necessary for you to perform? To do that work, we call it as a process. When coming to software process, what we told is, in order to develop a software, what are all the set of activities, what are the set of actions, what are the set of tasks you need to perform in order to develop that software or maintain that software, or anything regarding that software, any product producing regarding that software. So that is what we call it as a software process, right? List of activities, actions and tasks is called a software process. Now, what we told is this process contains all these three things: activities, actions, and tasks. So, process, we told that in brief, it is a group of activities. Activities drive a broader objective. Activity is nothing but group of actions. Action is nothing but group of tasks. In the sense, we are coming from a broader objective into a narrow thing. So, for suppose if I give an example for activity, to communicate with the stakeholders, that is the main activity, right? One of the activities to communicate with the stakeholders. In that, the action you need to perform is, in order to communicate with the stakeholders, how you are going to communicate with the stakeholders. It can be either a presentation you are giving the stakeholders, or whether you are conducting some interview to the stakeholders, whether you are giving him some forms and asking him to fill all those forms so that you'll know the reports, you'll know the details of all the data or all the functions from the stakeholders, all these things. So in order to communicate with the stakeholders, what are the actions you are performing comes here. And next, action, we told it as some group of tasks, right? So here we are saying you're communicating, right? In detail, you're interacting by either conducting interview or presentation or so. Task, we'll go in detail. While before giving some presentation to the stakeholder, first of all, you need to know who are all the stakeholders that are involved in your project. So you'll be preparing some list. That is a minute thing. And you will be inviting all the stakeholders to that meeting. That is a minute thing. So I'm going into a small unit of work, which is called as task. In order to communicate with the stakeholder, what is a small unit of works I need to perform? All those comes under tasks. So this is a basic definition of process, which we saw in the last class. And next we went on for framework activities. This is very important, students. These 5 framework activities will be common for all the process models. So all of you should know what are the things, what are the 5 activities, and what is the procedure that is going on internally in this 5 phases, right? We gave the first phase as communication. Here communication and analysis also comes here. So in order to develop any product, first of all, I need to have a clear communication with the stakeholder, with the client, in order to know what is his objective, what he is expecting from us. So you'll communicate with him. There will be some group of persons who will communicate. Generally, system analyst will be the person who is going to communicate with the stakeholder in software, right? The system analyst will communicate, and then he'll analyze the report, whatever report he got from the client. He will analyze. Why? Because the client will be giving you some data which may be inconsistent, which may be ambiguous, all these things, right? Next, you need to scrutinize all these things and finally generate one report. That will be called as analysis. That will be done by the system analyst. So communication and analyzing will be done in this phase. And next, we'll be planning how to develop our software project after communicating. In this planning, we call it as software project plan in software engineering. In this software project plan, we'll be having a clear picture of what are all the issues, what are all the hardwares to be used, software to be used, resources to be used, what will be our work schedule time, what will be the budget we are planning, what will be the risks we'll be facing. So we'll have a clear plan of what should be done in the future. That is our planning phase. And next, coming to the modeling phase, now you have a clear plan report. From this plan report, we will be preparing the designs or models from which the coding can be done easily. This will be the modeling phase. And next, construction phase, you will be actually doing your coding part here. And coding plus testing also comes in this construction phase. You just don't release the product just by coding. You need to check whether the work you have done is correct, right? Even in our normal program execution also, we'll just compile your program first and check whether any errors are present in our program. Then only you start running your programs, right? So in the same case, in a software project development process also, after coding, you'll be checking, you'll be testing, or you will be performing some verification and validations here to check whether the product you have developed is as per the requirements given by the client, is as per the objective of the client. And the last phase is the deployment phase, where you will deliver your product to the client and ask him and wait for the acceptance testing from the user, where the client will go through our product. He'll be using it. He'll be giving us the feedback. Based on the feedback, our further procedure repeats, whether to iterate back and add new things, or whether to end the product. It depends completely on the feedback given by the user. Even the maintenance comes in this deployment phase, right? So these are the 5 activities which all of you should know. And these 5 framework activities are always supported or complemented in the background by some umbrella activities, right? These umbrella activities will be running in the background in all the phases of the 5 framework activities. So what are all those umbrella activities? It includes typically software project tracking and control. See, you're tracking your project status. I have planned to complete my project. I have planned in the planning phase. I have planned how to complete my project. What are the things? What will be my deadlines? Right now, here I'll be tracking whether I'm progressing in the extent which I have planned previously. And if at all I'm lagging in some case or so, then I'll be seeing the controlling measures, how to control that, how to overcome and complete it within a time. So this is the project tracking and controlling, which will be always done in the background phase. And next is the risk management. What are the risks we are facing while developing our project? That will be analyzed, which will be always being done in the background phase. Next is the quality assurance. So the main aim is product should be of quality one. So for that, this quality assurance team will be giving us some common standards, some common rules or guidelines to be followed while developing our product. And next is the technical reviews or peer reviews. Some technical persons will be attending the reviews which are given by us. They will be giving us some suggestions by which we can overcome the uncovered errors. We can rectify the uncovered errors which are not identified by us, right? And the next one is the software configuration management. We told that even though you make a small change in your product, in your development process, definitely the change will be affecting some way or the other the rest of the modules, right? So in that case, how far the change you are going to make is going to affect the rest of the things. All this will be analyzed by the software configuration management team. And next is the usability management. How far the product can be reused, how far the previous software components that we have already developed can be reused, how far you're developing the product now to so that it can be reused in the future. So all these will be analyzed by the maintained by this reusability management team. And finally, the work product preparation and production. So what we are saying here is work product is your final executable code. Along with this work product, you need to prepare some supporting documents. All this comes under work products. These documents may include design documents, coding documents, a clear documentation report about what you have done from beginning to the ending, right? Testing report, and next user manuals, some maintenance manuals, all these should be prepared. So this team will be checking whether we are doing all these things according to the date or not. So these are the umbrella activities which should be done always in the background, right? That topic was this is very important topic, the framework activities and the umbrella activities. Why? Because all these will be continued in all the process models. And coming to this today's class, we'll be seeing software engineering practice in today's class. In this practice, you will be having two topics, two subtopics. One is the essence of the practice, and the next one is the general principles that should be followed while performing a software engineering practice, right? So coming to this first one, there is an author called George Pole who outlined the essence of problem solving and consequently the essence of software engineering practice. He gave us four statements or four rules that should be followed while developing a software engineering, right? So what are all the four guidelines he gave us is, the first one is he is asking us to first understand the problem. So understand the problem in our framework activities which we discussed, it comes under communication and analysis. So this is the framework activity which we discussed, right? First one is communication and analysis. So what the author is saying, first thing is understand your problem. It comes under communication and analysis in our framework activities. And next one is plan a solution. This comes under modeling, preparing the modeling, planning and preparing the software design in our framework activities. And third one is carry out the plan. This comes under code generation in our activity, that is a coding part. And last one is examine the result for accuracy. This comes under testing and quality assurance, and finally deployment in our framework activities. So right, these framework activities which we saw previously. So the author is suggesting us 4 points to be done before developing the software engineering. First, understand the problem, plan the solution, carry out the plan, and examine the result for accuracy. So while we are seeing all these points, all these 4 points, we'll be having some doubts while you are seeing. So understand this problem. To what extent I should understand the problem? I'll be having some questions that are raised in the that will be raised in my mind while I'm understanding some problem, right? So in each phase, I'll be having some set of questions that will be raised. If I get the solution for those questions, then I can say that I completed that phase. I completed the task of understanding or maintaining. The first one is the understand the problem, which the author suggested as. So students, generally, while you're listening, what we generally do is we listen to some extent, and the rest of the case we think in detail to some extent. While someone is speaking to you, you don't always listen completely what the person is saying to you. You listen some lines, and you'll be thinking, your mind goes somewhere, and you'll be thinking what the person has said. You'll be trying to analyze what the person has said, right, in your own perspective. Okay, this is generally what happens while we are listening to anyone. So what the author is saying is, while understanding the problem, you should raise these following questions to yourself. While the client is giving you the problem statement, just raise these following questions to yourself. If you are able to get the solutions to these following questions, then he'll say that you finally understood the problem statement, what the client gave you. So first question is, who has a stake in the solution to the problem? While understanding the problem, first remember that whether you have understood who are all the persons who are involved in the project, who in the project development, who is having the stake in the solution to the problem, who are all the people that are going to get benefited by this product, right? Who is the final end user who is going to use that product? You need to understand all those people. For suppose some person is coming and giving you some project to develop, you need to know finally who are the persons that are going to use that project, right? What category of person he is, what how sort of persons all those are, that should be known by us clearly. And next, what are all the unknowns And second thing is you need to raise a question that what are all the unknowns. Okay, the client is asking me to develop something. He is giving me a project to develop, right? In this project, in order to develop that project, what are all the unknown things till now? Raise this question to yourself. This unknown can be either the data which is not known for you, whether either the functions which are not known to you, what and the features that are required to properly solve these problems. All these may be the unknown things. Just identify what are the unknown things you want to develop, you want, so that you can complete that project, right? And next, can the problem be compartmentalized? So it is very difficult for us to read a large essay completely. Some 10 pages of essay, if I ask you to read, it will be very difficult for you to read. It will be easy for you if you divide that essay into halves. If you divide that essay into some 5 halves and then read it, right? So in the same way, when the problem statement is given for you, it will be difficult for you to understand the complete problem statement at a time. So just think whether the problem that is given to you can be compartmentalized, whether it can be divided, so that is it possible to represent smaller problems that can be easier to understand, whether the large problem can be divided into smaller problems so that it will be easy for us to understand. So raise this question to yourself. And the last one is, can the problem be represented graphically? Can the analysis model be created? Now the client has given you all the requirements. You're trying to understand the problem here, right? While understanding the problem, just imagine whether all those things you have gained, all the information you have gained from the client, can it be represented graphically? Can the analysis model, can the analysis diagram be drawn? Why? Because the by graphical representation, we'll be having a clear, better picture when compared to normal theory part understanding, right? So just think whether all the data can be represented graphically or not. If you have solution for all these questions, then finally we can say that you understood the problem statement that is given by the client, right? Just see, while coming to understanding the problem, just first you need to know who are all the who is having the stake in the problem. That is, who are the final users who are going to get benefited by this product, right? You need to know what are all the unknowns that you need to involve in this project development. The unknowns can be the data part, in any sort of information, any sort of resources, any sort of hardware, anything, whatever is unknown for you, just try to identify what are all the unknowns, so that in future you will try to gain them, right? Can the problem be can the problem be divided into small pieces, and can it be represented graphically? All the information you have collected till now, can it be represented graphically? Raise all those questions in first phase, understanding the problem. And in the second point, author asked us to plan the solution. Before planning this, planning is nothing but we are preparing a software project plan. As I told you previously, you will be preparing a plan where you will be having the complete report of what are all the things that are necessary for us to develop the project. It can be either the software necessary, it can be either the resources necessary, whether the hardware components that are necessary, whether the human persons that are resources necessary, whether the cost needed, whether the time, anything. What are all the things we'll be planning here, right? While planning the solution, just raise the following questions. First one is, have you seen similar problems before? Before planning for your project that you are going to develop now, just raise a question. Have we seen the similar problem before? Say if you have seen or if you have solved the same type of problems before, it will be easy for you to develop this project, right? Already you are expert in some field, you are expert in Java coding, but for similar set of applications, you have developed number of applications related to ATM, right? And now a new user client has come to you and ask you to develop the same ATM applications with some extended features. And it will be easy for you. Why? Because you have already been in that field for some time, right? So first think whether have you seen the similar problems before. Are there patterns that are recognizable in a potential solution? Is there existing software that implements the data, functions, features that are required? See, you're planning for an ATM. That's not a new thing, right? You don't need to begin it from the scratch. Already you're having some number of ATM applications that are developed before. So make use of those things. See the existing softwares that are already having, that have already implemented the same data, the same functions and features, and try to use them, right? So for that, check this question. And the second question you need to raise is, has a similar problem been solved? See, check whether the applications are present previously. Now see whether that problems has been solved previously. Already the elements have been solved. Already the application has been solved previously. In that case, we'll be making use of those previous components that are already developed. So that is what we are saying. If so, are elements of the solution reusable, right? And next one is, can sub-problems be defined? If so, are solutions readily apparent for the sub-solution? Now, coming to sub-problems, here is a larger problem. So maybe in first point, you're checking whether the ATM application has developed previously or not. If yes, very good. And next question, you are checking whether that ATM application solution can be reusable in your new project that is going to be developed. Yes, if it is reusable, then you'll try to take that code and reuse it in your new thing, right? And next, check whether the sub problems can be defined. The problem can be divided into different sub problems. In ATM, you'll be having withdrawal as one sub problem, crediting as one sub problem, report generation as one sub problem. So all these things. So check whether the sub problems can be defined or not. And the last question is, can you represent a solution in a manner that leads to effective implementation? In the sense, can the design model be created? Here in the previous thing, we told that can the analysis model be created while understanding the problem. Analysis model is just the diagrammatical report of your requirements you have gathered, right? Now here we are saying that check whether the design model can be created. Now this design model will give you a clear picture of how to code in the next phase. By saying this design model only, you will be starting your coding, right? So check this one, whether the design model can be created by having all this data, right? So the second one is plan the solution, and the third one is carry out the plan. Now, while carrying your plan, while implementing the plan which you have planned before, so what you need to do is you need to raise questions like, does the solution conform to the plan? So right, in this carry out the plan, what we'll be doing, I told you, you'll be coding in this, right? This is what we saw. In carry out the plan will be code generation will be done. In the sense, you will start your coding part, you will start your programming part. So while carrying out the plan, check whether the solution, whether that you are being developed conform to the plan. So check whether that as per the plan given only you are generating your solution or not. Is the source code traceable to the design model? According to the design model only, whether you are generating the source code, whether you're coding, just check it. That is what we need to do here. And the next one is each component part of the solution probably correct? Has the design and the code been reviewed, or better, have correctness proofs been applied to the algorithm? So see here, we have generated the code as per the model, as per the design model, you have generated the code. Now check whether the code that you have been developed is reviewed previously, and it is acted, it is the correct coding part you're going to done as per the algorithms or proofs that have been available previously, right? So that is what we need to check here, whether the coding is done perfectly or not. That is what you need to do here. This comes under carry out the plan. And the last one is examine the result. Now you have carried out the plan. Now you completed your coding part completely. Now finally you need to examine the result. Before releasing the coding part into the market, you need to perform some testing, right? Now how you will be testing, you will be having different testing strategies to perform testing. That's a different thing. Now what you need to test is, you need to check whether the product you have developed is as per the objective given to us by the client. The client has given you some objective. Now finally you need to check whether you have developed the product in such a way that the client will be satisfied. Why? Because it is the client for whom we need to give the value, right? He's the person who is giving us the project and money, all the things. So finally you need to check whether the product is implemented as per the client needs. So for that, it now raise the following question: is it possible to test each component part of the solution? Has a reasonable strategy testing strategy been implemented? Each component part, in the sense each small module, each part of the code, each part of the function. In your language, in C language, you are having different function is nothing but a smaller subprogram, right? Smaller module. Now check whether each module can be tested. That is what you need to do here. And the last one is, does the solution produce results that conform to the data, functions, and features that are required? Has the software been validated against all stakeholder requirement, which I already told you. So finally, it is the customer the client who gave the project who should be satisfied, right? So finally, I need to check whether, validate whether the product I have developed is as per the user requirement. Validating is nothing but checking whether the developed product is as per the user requirements, and verification is nothing but checking whether the product that I have developed until that point of time is accordingly or not. So there will be a slight difference between verification and validation, which we'll be seeing in the later stages in detail. Now here, validate is nothing but the checking whether the final product you have developed is as per the user requirement or not. This is called as validation here. So these are the 4 things that the author Pole has suggested us to do before doing any software engineering practice. So the first one is understand the problem, plan the solution, carry out the plan, and examine the result. So these are the different questions you need to raise for yourself. If you get the solution for all these questions, if you are able to say yes for all these questions, then finally I can say that the problem is understood by you people, right? So while understanding the problem, these are the questions you need to raise for yourself. While planning the solution, just see whether the similar problems exist before, whether I have the solution for that problem already developed, whether the problem can be divided into sub-problem, and whether I can have an effective implementation, that is nothing but whether design model can be prepared for that problem statement. If okay, if I say yes, I have the solution for all this, then you can say that your planning is completed. And next, carry out the plan. Now you need to carry out the plan. For that, raise the following questions: does the solution conform to the plan? Does the thing you are developing right now is as per the plan that you have planned before? Or each component part of the solution probably correct? Or check whether everything you are going to develop is probably correct or not, as per the algorithms that are present previously or not, right? And next, finally, examine the result. While examining the result, you need to perform testing, right? In testing, check whether the final product is validated as per the user requirement, as per the stakeholder requirement or not. So these are the 4 things you need to remember in your mind while you are performing testing. So do you have any doubt here? Students, do you have any doubt? Students, any of you, do you have any doubt? Can I continue? Continue.
Continue.
Okay. So in software engineering practice, the second essence is the general principles. The first one is the 4 principles given by George Pole, and the second one is the general principles. You'll be having some 7 principles that are given by David Hooker. So, right, David Hooker has proposed seven principles that focus on software engineering practice as a whole. They are reproduced in the following way. So these are 2 different authors that gave us some principles, right? By using these principles, you will be effectively able to effectively develop your project software. So the first principle given by David Hooker is the reason it all exists. So the first thing you need to remember here is a software system exists for some reason. So if you are doing any work, any sort of minute work you are doing, you will be doing it for some reason, right? You will not do it sillily. Suppose you are going somewhere, why? Because you need to perform some work there. That there will be some reason behind us doing any sort of work. So in the same way, for software development also, there is one reason why you are developing that software. The main reason is to provide value to its user. This is the main reason why you are developing the software, right? You're in order to provide value to the user, to the client, you are developing the software. So all decisions should be made with keeping this in mind, that finally the user should be satisfied. Finally, the client should be satisfied. The user should be able to use the software you have developed easily. So this is the thing you always need to keep it in mind. Does this add a real value to the system? If the answer is no, don't do it. So while you are planning anything for developing the software, whether you are thinking to involve some hardware in this procedure, think whether involving this hardware in this procedure, whether it will add value to the user or not. Right, you're involving some extra human resources in your project. Think whether adding this extra human persons in my project will finally provide value to the user or not. Is it necessary to add all these people or not? So think all these things. If you have an answer of no, there is no need of adding new persons in this project. It's enough for me to develop my project using the existing human itself. If the answer is no, just don't do it. If the answer is yes, then continue doing it. So that is what the first principle David Hooker is telling us. The reason it all exists. Anything you do, there will be reason for doing that thing. The reason for developing a software is finally to give value for the user. That you need to keep it in mind. And the second principle is keep it simple, stupid. So while designing, see, software designing is not a random process, right? It's not a random process. Different people will be involving, or different people will be developing the project in different ways, right? Finding the solution in different ways. So there are many factors to be considered in any design effort. While designing the solution, there are many things that should be considered. The first thing that you should consider is try to make it simple. Don't go for too complicated or too clumsy kinds of things while developing your software. Try to make the software design as simple as possible. Simple in the sense, we are not asking you to leave all the things, or make it dirty, or while doing it quickly. Don't try to make it dirty, or try to leave some lines of code. That doesn't mean simple. You need to develop the solution effectively, but while developing the effective solution, try to make it simple as far as possible. Don't try to make it too much hard to understand, right? This is what we are saying here. Keep it simple. This comes by experience. Why? Because for suppose in first year, if I ask you to write a program, any sort of program by using C language, what you people will be doing is you're new to that programming, right? So you'll try to find the solution, write the solution in some 10 lines or 20 lines of code, even though it's a smaller problem which can be solved by using one line, by using some predefined functions. You'll now have idea of all those things in the initial stages, right? You'll try to make it too lengthy, and you'll get the solution finally. But if I ask you to solve the same problem after you people in third or final year, after having some sort of experience in coding, then what you'll do is you will try to develop it in a simpler way. You'll try to minimize all the lines and try to develop the solution in one or two lines, right? So all this comes by experience. In the same way also, that is what we are saying here. In software designing, while preparing the designs, an expert will be having a clear knowledge, so he will be able to make the design process simpler, right? Not too lengthy. So that is what we are saying here. And the third principle is maintain the clear vision. Unless and until we have a clear vision, you will not do your work perfectly. Maybe you people are having a clear vision that after 4 years, I need to get this kind of job. If you have a clear vision or goal in your mind, definitely you will work hard to finally reach your goal, right? In the same way, a clear vision is essential to the success of software project. If you don't have a clear vision or clear plan of what you're going to do, without a clear vision, a project almost unfairly ends up being two minds about itself. If you're not having a clear plan before in the planning phase, then what generally happens is you go forward to some extent, you develop to some extent, then you will be stuck up there. You'll not know how to proceed forward. You'll not have a clear why, because it's ambiguity that is raised in your mind whether to do this in this way or whether to solve this in some other way. You'll be getting confused, right? So for that reason, you need to have a clear vision in the mind, then only your product will be successful. That is what we are saying here. And the fourth principle is what you produce, others will consume. So keep this in mind that whatever you are going to produce in your software in development process, it's not you who is going to use that one. It's some other person who is going to use that one. So as you know, software development has different phases, which we already told you. Communication is the first phase. There will be an expert who is able to communicate. Generally, system analyst will be communicating. That is the job done by the system analyst. So in development process, all the 5 phases will not be done by a single person. So a person will be expertise in one area. Maybe the person is expertise in communicating with the client. Then he'll be a system analyst who is only involved in the first phase. He'll generate a report for us that is called as some SRS report, or system analyst report prepared by him. Statement of purpose report, generally we call that as. That report will be moved on to the next phase. In the next phase, you're having a planning phase, planning persons who are experts in planning, who are experts in scheduling, cost estimation, risk estimation, all these things. He'll be preparing one report, right? And in the third phase, there is some other person who is very much expertised in designing, who is expertise in designing models. So this person will be taking the report that is given by the second phase persons, and he will be using it and generating the designs in the third phase. And after designing is completed, these designs will be given to the some other person called a programmer, normal developer. He is expertise in coding part, right? That coder will take the design models given by the designer, and then he'll start coding. So what we mean to say here is, not a single person is involved in all the phases. There will different set of peoples involved in different phases, right? In that case, while you're doing any work, you need to keep it in mind that this should be understood by the rest of the people who are going to use it. This should be a clear picture, a simple picture, which should be able to be understood by the rest of the people. So that is the thing you need to keep it in mind. So what we are saying here is, in some way or the other, someone else will use your thing, right? Someone else is going to maintain or document or otherwise depend on being able to understand your system. Someone else is going to analyze all the things that are prepared by you. So always specify and implement, knowing someone else someone else will have to understand what you're doing. So this is what we need to keep it in mind. So this is the fourth principle given by David Hooker. So he's asking us to keep in mind that whatever thing you're things you are developing, this should be understood by the rest of the people. And the fifth principle is be open to the future. So this is the thing you need to remember in any software industry, right? So generally, students, any technology that is being that is coming out now will just stand for some months in software industry. For suppose, while I was in school, there is a technology called BASIC, Logo. All these programming languages are we have learned in our schooling only, right? When I come to the intermediate stage, there is no language called Logo or BASIC that have ended up there itself in my schooling itself. While I was studying BTech, there is C programming, which is very trending language, which is the most trending language is C, and next it was Java, which is used by all the software industry persons. And now it's not Java, now it's Python or R programming that is being used. So what we say here is as like the hardware industry, our software industry will not be stable, right? Our software technologies keep on changing in years or even in months. So the main thing you need to keep in mind while developing any software is be open to future, in the sense your developed application should be in such a way that it should be able to adapt new features that will be coming in your future, right? So don't sit in a corner of room, don't just think this and confirm that this is the perfect thing. I have planned this as per my knowledge, this is the perfect thing. No, you can't do it in such a way in software industry. You need to open up, you need to you need to open up to all the people, take the ideas of all the people, plan your project in such a way that this project will be able to use for years and years. So in the sense your project will be able to include new features that are coming. See the WhatsApp you are using today, from the start time of WhatsApp till now, there are many new features, many updates coming you to day, asking you to include this new feature in this WhatsApp, right? While I was studying, Orkut was famous for social media communication. Now it's the Facebook, there is no Orkut kind of thing. Or while I was studying, phones that are used was Nokia. Most of the phones, even my parents, all the people were using a standard company phone, in the sense we'll go for Nokia phone. Even though we throw it down, it doesn't break. It's that much of standard. And it is even in processing, it's very good. The Nokia company phones. That was the trending phones while I was in schooling, right? And next later on, there is no Nokia at all. Do you know the reason why the Nokia company has completely vanished? Only because they were not accepting all these latest technologies like smartphone, smart touch usages, all this. They were just fixed to keypad phones, right? Only the keypads were present in that phones. They did not accept this touch screen phones, all these things. And on the parallel way, there is a Samsung company which started with keypad initially, but they were open to the future. They started including all these touch features in their phones, and now the Nokia has completely erased, and it's only the Samsung or iPhone, all these are being used. Like the main reason for their existing is they are planning for, they are open for the future. That is the reason they are existing even till now, right? And the sixth principle is plan ahead for usage. So this we have been telling from the beginning itself. The software that we are developing will not start it developing from the scratch. We'll try to make use of the maximum things that are present previously, maximum components that are present previously. We'll try to include it in our project, and we'll only add the new features that are necessary, right? So that is what we are saying here, plan ahead for use. Reuse saves times and effort. The high level of reuse is arguably the hardest goal to accomplish in developing. So planning ahead for reuse reduces the cost and increase the value of both the reusable components and the systems into which they are incorporated. So reuse is nothing but reusable components, which we have been telling from the beginning. And the last principle you need to remember is think. Before doing anything, just think twice, thrice. If you think more, have a clear plan of whether that is correct or not. Don't do any work without thinking, right? The last principle is probably the most overlooked. Generally, we don't see all these things. We don't just think much regarding the. So just think before doing any work. Even though you fail in that work, it gives you some experience so that in future you'll not repeat that one, right? So before doing any work, just think. That is what we are saying here. So these are the 7 principles that are given by the David Hooker. The first principle is reason it all exists. You're developing the software for one reason, that is to give value for the user. Keep it in mind. The second principle is keep it simple. Try to design your software in such a way that it should be simple. the process of simplifying, don't just leave the necessary things. You need to include all the things, but you need to make it simpler, right? And the next one is third principle is maintain the vision. Always remember the vision in your mind regarding software development. Then only you will be able to move forward without any errors. And the fourth one is whatever you produce, it is not you who is going to use that. It is some other person who is going to consume whatever you produce. Always keep it in mind. And fifth one is be open to the future. Always try to develop in your application in such a way that it should be able to adapt the new technologies that are going to be developed in the future, new features that are going to be included in the future, right? And the sixth one is plan ahead for use. Try to develop reusable components in your software, right? And the last one is think before doing anything, any problem, solving any problem, just think so that you'll develop your project correctly finally. So this is all about today's class. So number 71.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what we have discussed today.
We have discussed over 7 principles, ma'am.
General principles of David Hooker. Can you tell me any one principle?
I can explain about think, ma'am. Think principle.
Okay.
That means think principle is something that which we have to think again. That means if we are decided to do something, whether we will succeed or we fail, first we have to do it. Because once we succeed, it is okay. Or else, if we fail, that's also okay, because we can learn some lessons so that we cannot repeat those mistakes when we try later.
Okay, very good. And next, any one person, any number 9. So number 9. Number 9. Roll number 9. Who is this roll number 9? Next, number 50. Roll number 50. Roll number
Hello,
50.
ma'am.
Yes, can you tell me any principle, any general principles or any principles given by Pole? Any?
Sam, keep it simple, not stupid, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else?
We have.
Number 202. Number 202. Give me the 7 principles proposed by David Hooker. Number 202. Number 202. Give me the 7 principles proposed by David Hooker. Student, are you there? First of all, respond me. Are you present? Respond to me.
Yes, ma'am, present.
You are present, then where are you? Can't you give me any one principle you have listened till now?
I don't remember, ma'am.
What do you remember then? See, while telling the class, please write the key points, at least the subheadings. Okay, right? Number 202, call me after the class. Okay. Okay, students, shall we end our meeting today?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.